think I got him? My heart was beating so fast. Oh my goodness. I didn't realize how many birds just flocked up in front of us. Oh my gosh. My heart was beating so fast. What a thrill. Wow. Let's go see our prize. Oh my goodness. I absolutely live for this time of year. Turkey hunting is by far my favorite thing to do. I usually dream all the way leading up. I had some really nice turkey dreams last night. And it's so wonderful. First thing when you wake up to hear that gobble, gosh, it's what you dream for. It's what you live for in the state of Wisconsin. Absolutely love this time of year. It doesn't get better than this. What a beautiful day. I mean, sometimes when I'm turkey hunting, I'm freezing my butt off, wondering if this is what I signed up for. There's snow on the ground. And I mean, this is just a little slice of heaven right here. Look at those wings. Beautiful bird. Some good eating, too.
That was Lauren Majer's successful Wisconsin turkey hunt. She's one of a growing number of adult female hunters discovering the heart-pounding excitement of wild turkeys in Wisconsin. Welcome. I'm your host, Dan Small. Stay tuned as we explore the challenges, opportunities, magic, and mystique of the wild turkey. Let's start with retired police officer Judi-Anibas, a former teacher who now volunteers as a mentor to help others experience more in the great outdoors.
I've been mentoring hunting 30 plus years, most of my life. And I say that because anytime I go hunting or someone wants to go hunting, whether we call it a mentored hunt or hunting, we're all doing the same thing. So we're teaching each other. You know, I learn from people that I hunt with, they learn from me. I've taught for a long time. I was a firearms instructor when I was on the police department, and that teaching aspect really brings me to any kind of coaching, teaching, mentoring, whatever we want to call it, at any time. So and the biggest one is the joy people get out of it, because, you know, you sit in the woods and you got to be in the woods to see what's in the woods. So, you know, it's all those little extras. Yeah, maybe you're hunting for deer and, you know, hopefully you see a deer, and then when you can shoot, and then you actually do harvest it. That's always nice. But it's also, you know, the squirrels that wake up, or the sunrise that you see, or the sunset, or the other animals that are out in the woods, or the exercise you get for doing it, you know, or watching your dog work, and so part of that is not only my own joy for being there, but other people who enjoy that and really want to do that. And then that's what I get out of any time I go hunting with anybody, whether they're coming along for the first time or the 50th time, or it's someone new who has an interest in just the world of hunting. Anyone who wants to mentor, have a love for what they're doing. No matter what it is, you want someone who understands safety, who understands hunting and why you're doing what you're doing. You don't want somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, obviously, and that doesn't matter if they're male or female. Sometimes women may feel more comfortable with women who know what they're doing. On occasion, women are intimidated by maybe what men say, how they say it. You know, sometimes they speak differently than women, which is fine if you understand it and can appreciate that. But some people get intimidated by that. And, you know, I'd have to say, in reference to hunting, whether you're male or female, you got to want to hunt. And there's just some people who, one, don't believe in it and who wouldn't even think of doing it. But then there's others who would like to and just don't have that opportunity. So when I hear someone say something like that, well, I'd love to go and do that. Are you serious? Do you really want to? Give me your phone number. I'll call you sometime and let you know when we're going. And you have to want to, and then you have to make up your mind you're going to. And you talk to enough people, someone's going to help you hunt.
Nice job. You crushed it.
What is it about wild turkeys in particular that appeals to people of all ages, including new hunters, both young and old, and their mentors?
So what's so special about turkeys? Well, they're certainly one of the funnest game birds out there to hunt. Placing decoys, watching how they're responding to your calls and decoys, and hopefully eventually coming in to where you're sitting. So it's a very fun and very interactive sport.
In spring, I kind of locate it with morel mushrooms, asparagus, trout fishing, and there's this great nexus of springtime food activities. And in fall, I kind of peg it with grouse, squirrels, and small game hunts. It's really about food and it's about landscape, and that's what I think of the wild turkey in each of its seasons.
And the sound of a wild turkey gobbling is like something that just either you get it or you don't. When that tom gobbles in the woods with you, it is like a shot of pure adrenaline. If you don't like that, then I'm sorry. I don't know what it would be that would excite you, because to me, it is the best of the best.
The wild turkey is so important to me in my life. I spent many of my years studying the vocalizations, which was really fun, and I was a contest caller. And now I'm finding there's so much about the visual communication going on in the turkey world that is very intriguing to me right now.
Turkeys are such a special bird because of the juxtaposition between being this, highly intelligent bird, usually during hunting season, and then the other side, which is most of the year, where they're walking in your backyard. To me, it's just a really interesting mix.
Wild turkey hunting in the spring is just wildly exciting because the whole world is waking up and turning green, and they put on a big display, they talk to you, there's all the other bird sounds, and so turkey hunting is my favorite outdoor activity.
Let's see if you can name the parts of tom turkey's anatomy. The head, the eye, the ear opening are a good place to start. This is called the snood. The large fleshy area here are called the caruncles. Beautiful body feathers, and also tail feathers and tail coverts. Then we go down to this hairy protrusion. These are actually a form of feathers, and this is called the beard. Moving past the breast feathers and the beard, we come to the legs that look like reptile skin and the spurs. Over to the wings, you can see the distinctive white and black bars on the primary wing feathers. The feathers on the back and body shed water and provide insulation. How can a creature be so beautiful and yet so ugly at the same time?
Wild turkeys have always been special for many reasons, but until recently they were far from abundant here in Wisconsin. Here's Mark Witeka with an insider's look at this wildlife restoration success story.
The turkey restoration story is one of the greatest wildlife success stories that we've seen really in the modern era of wildlife management. Throughout the turkeys range from the early 1900s until about the 1960s or 70s, we saw populations decline and were virtually non-existent in many places they historically would have occupied. That was largely due to timber harvest and changing landscapes, as well as unregulated hunting. So fast forward to the 1960s, and in Wisconsin we have a landscape that we felt was highly suitable for turkeys, but there were no turkeys left to reoccupy those areas. So the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, working closely with hunters, conservationists, and partner groups like the National Wild Turkey Federation, banded together and pooled our resources and time and effort to reintroduce birds that were taken from Missouri onto the landscape in southwestern Wisconsin, and the population immediately exploded. It allowed us to take birds and translocate them within the state to other portions of Wisconsin, and now we have turkeys occupying all 72 counties in the state, including all of northern Wisconsin, which historically, when we were doing the reintroduction, we felt we may never see turkeys in northern Wisconsin due to the harsh winters, but now again we have them statewide and in every county.
We asked Mark Witeka if the reintroduction of wild turkeys in Wisconsin was too successful, creating what some call nuisance birds.
With the successful reintroduction of turkeys, we also have experienced some issues as well. Agricultural damage would be one example where turkeys are damaging agricultural fields. There is a program available through the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources that would allow landowners to receive ag damage tags for turkeys. In return, the landowner would then have to open their land up to public hunting. We've also seen some nuisance urban turkey issues in some of our more urban areas like Milwaukee and the surrounding area, as well as Madison. And there are some potential opportunities to mitigate those impacts that local urban turkeys are having, especially during the breeding season when they can be more aggressive. So if you are experiencing any nuisance issues in an urban area, please contact your local DNR wildlife staff.
Here's National Wild Turkey Federation district biologist Matt Wiegman with a quick overview of a year in the life of the wild turkey.
In the spring, turkeys are kind of breaking up. They were in large flocks in the wintertime, especially the adult male birds, gobblers, are separating, and they're trying to establish dominance, really. And throughout the whole season, there's a pecking order with turkeys. But in the spring, that really comes to play. And one of the things that you see when you're watching a flock of turkeys in the spring is just there's a lot of fighting going on between males. Females are part of this pecking order in their separate groups. And it's a clear sign that something is going on in terms of the ecology of wild turkeys during this time of year. A male turkey will copulate with multiple hens during that season. And a hen turkey will lay anywhere from 9 to 14 eggs or so, laying 1 egg a day, and then she'll sit on those eggs for 28 days, taking just tiny breaks. And that process is called incubation. After 28 days, those poults hatch out, and within about 24 hours, they leave the nest site. In the summer, it's all about food for poults, and the foods that we're talking about are insects for the most part. Insects are an excellent source of protein for turkeys, and they're critical in the development of those, of the feathers, of the breast muscles, of those things that turkeys need to escape predators. A couple other excellent food sources that poults are eating: seeds, really important to a turkey's diet, poult's diet. Young green shoots are high in protein, but insects are really the staple to a poult's diet. In the fall, they're eating more food. They're changing their feeding areas from more of a summer insects, seeds, maybe some berries, into more of mass crop. So we're talking acorns and hickory nuts, possibly beech nuts. Waste grain is very important to a turkey's diet in the fall. And they're kind of switching that diet to the next thing that's available in the fall. Along with that diet shift, they're kind of shifting their range. Those hens that successfully raise poults, a lot of times will group up the male poults out of those groups, which are called jakes, kind of separate out of those groups a little bit later. And then you have the toms, which are the adult male turkeys, and they're in a separate group too. In these groups, they develop that pecking order. Those more dominant birds might notice predators a little bit better and help with the overall survival of the flock. So that's where the pecking order is an important part of the process of just the whole flock survival, really. And that sets the stage for turkeys surviving in the winter. There's really two things that turkeys are doing in the winter. They're on roost for part of the time, and they're feeding for part of the time. And the closer those areas are to each other, the less susceptible the turkey is to being eaten by a predator. So if they only have to move from this roost tree down to this hardwood stand full of oaks, a lot of acorns still on the ground in the winter, and maybe there's not much snow, fly back up, don't have to move much. That's a successful strategy for a turkey to continue to survive.
When it comes to the turkey population, nothing is more important than habitat. We need habitat for nesting, brood rearing, overwintering, and certainly for fall feeding. Turkeys are very much an edge species, which means they like to be where two different habitat types meet. Specifically, they like a 50-50 mix of forested habitat to open habitats, whether that be agricultural or grassland. This provides food sources and cover for them for all of their life history needs. If you're a hunter pursuing turkeys on public land, you can look then for that mix of agricultural or grassland with forest cover. If you're a landowner that's looking to improve habitat, you can focus on things like the nesting and brood rearing cover, as well as some of the foraging cover that they need throughout the year to meet their life history needs. That might include things like leaving crops standing for food throughout the winter, or helping to regenerate oaks on your property, which provide a very valuable food resource in the fall that allows turkeys to make it through the winters.
The common denominator in the wild turkey success story, whether you're talking about relocation and restoration or habitat management, is that it all relies on partners. Citizen volunteers, natural resources professionals, local community leaders, and conservationists who hunt, they all work together.
Grassroots partnerships are extremely important to the work that we do and are tied to all of our excellent partners, Pheasants Forever, State of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa. U.S. Forest Service has been a key partner. Timber companies and doing timber stand improvements and these cuts that are extremely important for wildlife by opening up that forest floor, allowing the sunlight to hit the ground and have new growth. That's really important to hen and poult turkeys, for example. Partners with, of course, the state agencies have been excellent partners. The U.S. Forest Service, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, BLM out west, and all of our chapters and the money they raise through the super funds. That money is used towards grassroots events, youth hunts, habitat restoration. When we're able to leverage those dollars, we can do a lot.
A number of private and public partners help generate financial support for wild turkeys through an annual art competition, with the winning artwork turned into the Wisconsin Turkey Stamp.
The Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources has several different wildlife stamps that are required to hunt those species. Each of those stamps generates revenue that then goes back to the conservation of those species, including turkey. One of the ways that turkey hunters give back to the turkey population is through the purchase of a turkey stamp. The turkey stamp is required to hunt turkeys during the spring or fall season in Wisconsin. And the funding that's generated through the sales of stamp directly goes back to improving turkey habitat. The turkey stamp generates about $700,000 a year for improving turkey habitat in the state of Wisconsin. If you're a non-hunter, you can actually purchase those stamps as well to support conservation of those species without actually pursuing them. Also, if you're an artist that's interested in submitting artwork for our turkey, pheasant, or waterfowl stamp, you can look at our website. We put out an annual news release on when that competition opens.
Partnerships are important when it comes to the recruitment, retention, and reactivation of hunters, the primary source of funding for managing our natural resources. As we lose hunters, we lose funding. Here's Keith Warnke, a leader in the effort to recruit and retain active, license-buying, equipment-purchasing hunters.
We in Wisconsin have seen a decline in the number of hunters over the past 10 to 12 years. Now, it's not a steep decline yet at this point, but it is going down, and it's expected to go down a lot steeper in the future. So it's important for us to pass along that tradition, to pass along all the good things about hunting, but it's also important for us as conservationists and hunters to remain relevant and to make sure that we have folks coming in behind us who know what we do, know what conservation is, and understand what hunting is, and then have that connection to the natural world that you can only get through hunting and fishing. When you go turkey hunting, you're out there for the experience. It's springtime a lot of times, lots of birds in the woods, lots of different things to identify, turkeys gobbling. It just brings everything together and it makes for that whole experience. And we're finding that people, particularly adults and families who are interested in the food and interested in the experience, really enjoy spring turkey hunting for all it can bring and be followed up by picking morels, picking asparagus, and going trout fishing after turkey hunting. All of those things have a great deal of interest and a great reason why turkey hunting is a good way to introduce a brand new hunter. Mentoring a new hunter is really easy. It's doing what you do every day in the field while you're hunting and inviting someone else to come along. These are the kind of things that really provide that kind of reward and then that enjoyment. When you see someone else's face after you've taught them to go hunting, that is a huge reward for you, and if you need, you have another hunting partner.
One of the strongest allies focused heavily on recruiting adult hunters is John Motovilov, And he says it doesn't hurt that wild turkeys are a delicious natural food source for people who want to harvest protein for their table.
The first iterations of Learn to Hunts were in the 1990s, and those were generally focused on children who often turned out to be the children of hunters. And through a lot of study from Wildlife Management Institute and various DNRs, turns out that the return on investment there is very, very low, and it's difficult to recruit these folks because either they're already hunting and in a hunting family and already recruited, or they have a desire to hunt, but they don't have the autonomy as being, 12, 13-year-old boys or girls. They don't have a car, they don't make family decisions, they don't have money for firearms. And so the pendulum has swung around now to trying to recruit adults and families, kind of where the nexus of decision making comes from, and get the families and friends on boards through that approach. But essentially, these are foodies. If you had to pick a word, that's what binds them together. They may be studying agriculture, they may be studying wildlife, or they may work for EPIC, or they may work as a school teacher, but what it is at the end of the day that drives them is local food. And so wildlife biologists and professionals have developed something called the Outdoor Recreation Adoption Model. And it's a fancy name, but really what it means is that, like any kind of learning for outdoor pursuits, fishing or angling, is a multi-stage process with lots of social support. So essentially you're moving someone from awareness and then interest and then trial to, I think I might do this, I see myself as a hunter, to, okay, I'm now in the pool. And really what you're trying to do is move them along via a wide variety of experiences and a network of social support. So mentors, bringing them to game feeds, going trap shooting, maybe even going bird watching in the spring and saying, okay, that's what a Drake redhead looks like in full plumage. Isn't that awesome? And so showing them that hunting is part of an outdoor lifestyle that's really all encompassing. One of the other interesting things is the demographics of my class. I mean, it probably looks a little bit more diverse than the traditional run of hunters, which is largely, older white males. So my classes, at least the ones run in the Madison area, tend to be about 50-50 men and women. And this has been just an eye-opener thing for me. I mean, I think that traditionally hunting is something that's passed down from grandfather to father and then from father to son, kind of a family affair. But this kind of brings it out into, we become their surrogate families, and we become their hunting families, the mentors, the instructors. And then the eye-opener here is that, there's absolutely no reason that, a woman hunter is going to be any less of an avid hunter than a male hunter. And it seems to me that this is something that we've really, really missed in marketing the sport.
Peggy Farrell, director of the National Becoming an Outdoors Woman program that started at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, is an expert on the joys of recruiting and mentoring female hunters.
Becoming an Outdoors Woman workshop classes are equally divided between 1/3 hunting and shooting, 1/3 fishing, and then 1/3 camping, canoeing, outdoor photography, hiking, all of those kinds of things. And then we also do learn to hunt for white-tailed deer, for pheasants, and also turkey. And those happen to be my favorite learn to hunt programs of all. And even though I'm mostly the person who does the organizing of those and the classroom teaching, I always make sure that I'm available to be a mentor for a new hunter for a learn to hunt turkey opportunity, because it's just as exciting for me to be able to see a brand new hunter light up with excitement even at just hearing a turkey or seeing a turkey, or if we get really lucky and a turkey comes within super close range, somebody who has never experienced that before is just a delight to be around. It gives me a lot of energy and like a new appreciation. Even though I do this a lot, every time I have a new person out hunting, it's very rewarding. In offering Learn to Hunt programs, we've found that there are a lot of people who want to learn to hunt because they've not come from a hunting background. They don't have anywhere else to go. But it can be difficult to find mentors who are willing and qualified and have the time to take these new hunters out. So as a result, the DNR has been offering funding to do special trainings to remove some of the barriers to being a mentor, to help mentors feel more comfortable about taking new hunters out. Through becoming an outdoorswoman, we work with both instructors and mentors that are usually about 50% men and women. We're a women's program, but we certainly don't elbow men out of the picture because there are excellent male mentors and instructors and excellent female instructors. Conversely, there are some that are not so good. Oftentimes, when we run into somebody, man or woman, who's a super fabulous expert in whatever their field is, an expert isn't always the best person to teach a newcomer because they know so much that it can be overwhelming or they might seem intimidating to a new person. So what makes a really good mentor for somebody who's a brand newbie is just a passion for what they're doing and sharing it with other people. So they certainly have to know their stuff, but they have to love teaching. They have to be very patient. They have to explain things at a level where the layperson can understand it. A lot of the activities that we do involve jargon, right? Calibers and gauges of shotguns and ammunition. It can just be completely overwhelming. So if you speak to the beginner in a plain way and help them understand the why, the history, the background, instead of this is how you should do it because I'm the person who knows best, then you're going to have a better relationship with introducing the new person and give them the confidence also to be able to maybe continue on their own after they've had a few opportunities to learn with someone who is nurturing them. We like to say that suffering is optional. These activities should be fun and safe and comfortable.
12-time Wisconsin state turkey calling champion Jeff Frederick is known as the Gobbler Geek. Jeff shares some turkey calling tips that can help any hunter.
When I was probably 10, 11 years old, I had the pleasure of hanging out at the Wisconsin Deer Classic at the Coliseum in Madison because my parents were involved in that show. I would get little odd jobs from the show coordinator and get an extra $20 bill in my pocket. I would go to the booth where the guys from down south had these little contraptions that they put in their mouth and made all kinds of cool sounds. And guess what I spent my $20 on? Mouth calls. Fast forward a few years, I had some of those same guys from down south encourage me to enter a turkey calling contest in 1988. And I won that contest. Boy, did that get me hooked. When I graduated from art school in Madison, I had my instructors thought a very good portfolio, and they said I could move to some of the larger cities, some of the bigger venues, and I said, well, I don't want that. I want to move to Prairie du Chien in the Driftless region. So I actually moved to the Driftless region from central Wisconsin because of my love for the wild turkey at that point. What was a love and interest and the fact that I did turkey calling contests for many years has become my career. I'm building turkey calls and decoys so that other turkey hunters can become as obsessed with turkey hunting as myself. The way that I work a gobbler, especially one if I can see him and he's not quite in range or maybe he's got a hen, is I'll go through some series of very aggressive, loud calling, blow his ears out. And then I'll see if that works. If it's not working, then I'll give them the silent treatment for a period of time. Sometimes that will be enough to get them to come in. By following my variety, volume, and intensity, sometimes I'll do some low intensity calling like purring. But again, it adds that variety, volume, and intensity into your overall scheme. And essentially, here's the secret, is it's making you more patient. You're not giving up.
Here's gobbler geek Jeff Frederick with some interesting facts about turkey eyesight and their iridescent feathers.
Wild turkeys have vision that is different from our human vision. Our human vision has red, green, blue, RGB. When ornithologists look at bird's eyes under an electron microscope, they have 4 types of photoreceptors, RGB and UV, the ultraviolet spectrum. In my opinion, we have no idea as humans what a turkey sees when it sees another turkey, because the feathers have iridescence. We've all seen how gorgeous a turkey looks when the sun is shining on it, how it reflects colors, and actually what it's doing is refracting light. Very similar to what happens when light shines through water vapor to make a rainbow. And it was these things that led me to develop the decoy that I use now with real turkey feathers. I literally pluck and snip feathers off of the birds and adhere them to my specially designed decoy. By putting the real feathers on my decoy, the turkeys are seeing another turkey.
Here's Mark Witeka with historic harvest data and insights into wild turkey population dynamics.
So Wisconsin's turkey population is currently in a state of stability. We saw exponential population growth rates from the introductions in the 1970s, really into the 1990s, early 2000s. The population peaked, and for about the last 8-9 years, we've been in a stability phase where the population's been holding strong. So in a typical spring season, we can likely see about 40,000 birds harvested per spring. And on an annual basis, we'll see some minor fluctuations, some local fluctuations based on things like overwinter conditions, nesting and brood rearing conditions. For about the last 4 or so winters, we've had fairly mild winter conditions for turkeys. I'd say above average temperatures and below average snowfalls, which tends to be favorable for turkeys. They are a hardy species. They can stay in roost for multiple days during the winter to ride out bad winter. They can lose up to 30% of their body weight and still survive over winter. So they are a hardy bird, but certainly these milder winters we've been experiencing in recent years will help. Conditions for nesting and brood rearing last year were, I would say, a little below average for nesting, but perhaps above average for brood rearing. We had, as many folks will remember, a blizzard statewide right at the start of the turkey season. Unfortunately, the start of the turkey season coincides with peak nest initiation as well. So that means we got 12, 24 inches of snow in many places throughout the state right as the hens were initiating their nests. So unfortunately, that likely moved a lot of hens off nests. Thankfully, turkeys are prolific re-nesters, so we did see a lot of re-nesting with hens, and anecdotally, a lot of the reports I received in my personal observations were that we had a lot of very late broods last year, still seeing very small poults in August. So I think nesting was likely impacted, but we did see some re-nesting attempts, and thankfully we had very good brood rearing conditions with warm and dry temperatures throughout the summer.
We asked Mark Witeka about possible threats posed to turkey populations by diseases like West Nile virus.
There are a number of diseases that can impact turkeys: avian influenza, avian pox, some parasites as well. For the most part, turkeys are a fairly healthy and hardy bird, so these diseases generally do not have any sort of population level impacts. There's been also a lot of concern around West Nile virus in recent years and some of the impacts that has on bird species, specifically some of our corvids like blue jays and crows. It has very high mortality rates associated with certain species of birds. The impacts of West Nile virus has not been well studied on turkeys, but there's very little evidence to suggest that West Nile virus would have any significant impacts on turkeys. It has been detected in turkeys, but very seldom, if at all, has it been detected as a source of mortality and a cause of death. One concern amongst many hunters is the impacts of predators on upland game birds, including turkeys. Generally, predators have fairly limited impacts on populations, but there are a number of predators that will depredate eggs, poults, and even adult turkeys. For the most part, we can surmise that if there is suitable habitat, these turkeys can withstand the pressures of predators. They are prolific reproducers. They produce 12, 14 eggs per clutch and have fairly successful nest and brood success rates. So by their reproductive strategies, they're able to overcome the pressures that predators may put on them. Fall turkey hunting presents a whole new set of opportunities to turkey hunters. One of the big changes between the spring and the fall season is that hunters are allowed to use dogs. That's something that a lot of people are very passionate about, and again, it provides a very different experience to be able to hunt turkeys with dogs. Instead of sitting in a blind, oftentimes you're up actively pursuing turkeys. One of the big differences between the spring season and the fall season would be how you pursue and call turkeys. So in the spring, you're generally calling a tom to you during the breeding season. In the fall, you're oftentimes scattering a flock and then using a different call to bring them back together. One of the great things about fall turkey hunting too is it's just one of many seasons that are open in the fall. So you can hunt turkeys opportunistically while deer hunting, as an example. So it creates more diversity in the opportunities that are available to hunters during the fall.
Ann Rice offers some helpful tips for finding a place to hunt on both public and private land.
Start by going to dnr.wi.gov and search public access lands, and that'll take you right to an application. It's an interactive map. Launch the application and you can start searching for locations to hunt right near you. So put in your address or put in the city that you live in, or search by a property if you happen to know a property. And that application will take you directly to that property. You can zoom in, zoom out, pan around just like you would any other type of mapping application, and hone in on where you'd like to hunt this year. Another option that you can use to discover public lands near you is to use the Hunt Wild app that just rolled out last fall in the start of the fall hunting seasons. It's really great, interactive, very easy to use. You can sign in as a guest or set up an account and then choose the species that you're interested in hunting. So we would choose turkey hunting for the spring. And the other great thing about this app is that it includes all the regulations, shooting hours, where you can hunt in an interactive map. You can be out in the field, and if you have fairly good cell reception, you should be able to navigate easily. If you don't have cell reception, then you can download a cached map and be able to still navigate on this app. It gives you federal lands, county forest lands, it gives you all of the DNR lands, easements, and it also provides you with the opportunity to look at private lands leased for public access. And we have two programs that do that. There is the Voluntary Public Access and Habitat Incentive Program. Those are lands that are open to all hunting, fishing, trapping, wildlife observation, but very important, it provides 35,000 acres extra to hunt on this season. And then we also have our Turkey Hunter Access Program lands. There are about 20 additional properties that you can hunt on this spring, just for the spring turkey season. There's 2,300 acres in zones 1, 2, and 3. When you enroll in the Voluntary Public Access and Habitat Incentive Program, you're opening your lands 365 days of the year. When you enroll in the Turkey Hunter Access Program, it's only open for the spring turkey season, so March 1st through the end of May. And this really gives you an opportunity to earn money, but also provide additional public access for the people of Wisconsin and beyond. This creates more opportunities for families to go out with their kids or spouses to go out and hunt together. It's just a really great thing to do for the people of Wisconsin.
There aren't any significant changes in turkey hunting regulations for this year, but there are a few things you should be aware of. Spring turkey harvest authorizations were drawn in January, and successful applicants were notified by postcard. You can also check your Go Wild account online to see if you were awarded a permit. Bonus harvest authorizations will be available for purchase beginning March 18th. Hunters may purchase these bonus permits at the rate of 1 per day until they're sold out or until the season ends. Youth turkey hunt dates this year are April 13th and 14th. A youth hunter with a valid harvest authorization for any regular spring hunting period and zone may use that permit during this special 2-day hunt. Although it's no longer necessary to validate a tag, all turkeys taken by hunters must be registered by 5 p.m. the day after harvest. You'll find more information on these and other regulations online at dnr.wi.gov, keywords turkey hunting. One rule that's often misunderstood has to do with roadkills. We asked the DNR about what you can do if you come across a fresh turkey killed by a vehicle.
By the way, not a lot of people know that if you accidentally strike a turkey with your vehicle, you can actually claim that turkey and keep it yourself. There are 2 ways that you can claim that turkey. First, by going to our online registration system and go wild, or second, by calling the DNR registration system and registering the bird like you would a harvest. Also, if you come across a fresh roadkill and you'd like to claim that turkey, even though you're not the person that hit it, you can do so by registering that turkey by phone or online.
Now that you're motivated to spend more time afield with wild turkeys in Wisconsin, safety should always be foremost in your mind. Here's DNR Chief Warden Todd Schaller with a safety message.
Wisconsin has been and continues to be a safe place for people to enjoy all types of hunting, turkey specifically. And a couple reasons why. I think one is since 1969, hunters in the state of Wisconsin have been required to take hunter education. So that's a key factor. And the other part is the fact that we have over 4,000 volunteer safety instructors across the state who spend time teaching our new hunters and our young hunters the safe rules of firearm safety.
We've covered a lot of ground in this program, and we hope you've learned something, whether you're new to the wild turkey or a seasoned outdoors enthusiast who's come to cherish this magnificent bird. I'm Dan Small. On behalf of our crew, the Outdoor Heritage Education Center, and the Wisconsin DNR, we hope we're leaving you with a greater appreciation of the wild turkey in Wisconsin.